Well, it certainly caused some more gray hairs, certainly caused some stomach issues. And by no means are you going to hang it in the Louvre. But the Cleveland Browns are victorious 39-38 over the Indianapolis Colts in Indianapolis. Your latest Locked On Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things dog pound LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you at the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, and I appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. The everyday crowd just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Join the everyday crowd by subscribing to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel, and of course, Locked On Browns is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcast. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more right now. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Victory Monday here on Locked On Browns. Cleveland Browns are victorious 39-38 over the Indianapolis Colts in Indy today. This game kind of had everything. Obviously, offensively, the Deshaun Watson back, Deshaun Watson gone. Defensively, it was a lot of all or nothing effort from the defense. But look, this team right now is 4-2. Currently could end the day second place in the AFC North. We'll track all of that. But most importantly, Cleveland Browns victory Monday. Obviously, the plan was late in the week, Deshaun Watson returning to practice. You get here today on Sunday. Deshaun Watson warms up before the game. Deshaun Watson is good to go and not on the inactive list. Gets out there the first drive, incomplete pass. Jerome Ford, 69 yards to the house. Then you see just deficiencies and issues with Deshaun Watson from that point going further. Obviously, in the first quarter, then takes a severe hit, whether it was the shoulder, whether it was the head. He went in the medical tent once for the shoulder, went in the medical tent following that to have his head checked for a possible concussion. Cleared on those fronts. He gets pulled from the game. The Browns just decided to go with PJ Walker. If you guys remember, I told you when even Deshaun came back, the best course of action probably was going to be to groom Deshaun to be ready to go against Seattle. Let PJ Walker handle this week. You put PJ Walker in, obviously, no limited practice time, wasn't ready. But PJ Walker found a way when it mattered to get what this team needed as far as getting a W. They ran the ball well, and Jerome Ford, obviously the 69-yard run, ran for a total of 150 yards today, over 4 yards per carry. Granted, most of that was weighted by the Jerome Ford run. We saw the commitment to it, and this is something the team, and we have talked about this. You're not going to run the ball as successfully as you did in the past with Nick Chubb. We all know it. We understand it. It's just not going to be the way it's going to be. But you still have a commitment to the run. The Colts secondary was suffering, missing a lot of their key players, playing a lot of younger players. The Browns could not capitalize until the very, very end. Amari Cooper bottled up for most of the day. Elijah Moore was involved a little bit. Obviously, Elijah Moore, the biggest reception of his time with the Cleveland Browns, and by far PJ Walker's best throw of the game, willing a 30-yard reception, got the ball to the midfield. And the Browns were able to continue there. The offensive line, for the most part, they did a really, really good job keeping the quarterback clean, even though the quarterbacks were not efficient. The quarterbacks were kept clean. Now you talk about, closing it out, and, you get to this final spot here, the Browns obviously the penalties. Look, these calls happen, and Browns fans, you guys know more than anybody else that you guys have been on the wrong end of this a lot over the last couple of decades here, as far as, when the penalties come, when the penalties don't come. The first one, obviously, and I even think the one before it that they actually picked up the flag on, I think there was contact. Amari Cooper may have initiated it, but, late contact by the defensive back probably deserved to be called. They did pick that one up. You got the one later, obviously, on the PJ Walker throw. Obviously, hit as he was throwing, obviously, and the ball went backwards. Buckner drops it. The flag's on the field. Penalties are penalties. And, I know everybody has this let them play mentality. It's a difficult spot because the referees get graded whether or not they make the calls or not. If the referees don't make the call and it was an obvious penalty, they get dinged for it, So Again, the pass interference, I don't want to hear about uncatchable. Yes, the ball was uncatchable, but when the pass interference was committed, when the two hands were yanking on Donovan Peoples-Jones's arm, you did not know whether or not the ball was uncatchable at the time. It was pass interference. He interrupted the pass route. It's as old as time. But the Browns are able to capitalize. Then you get the 3 plays, obviously, inside. You get the 4 shots inside the 5. The shovel pass to Njoku was there. PJ Walker just rushed it, and obviously he threw it so hard it hit David Njoku right in the face mask. That game is all about. That play is all about timing. It's all about delay and basically making people thinking they're seeing so many other things than they actually are. PJ obviously just whipped one at David's head. Certainly did not work out for their favor. He got to 4th and goal, and Coach Stefanski doing what he does best and knowing what he believes in best as far as the way this team is concerned with anybody other than Deshaun Watson at quarterback. Let's run the ball. So you bring in Nick Harris, you bring in James Hudson, and it was close. It was really close, but Kareem was able to extend, obviously get his, get the ball over the white. Touchdown Browns. There was no question. It was a pure touchdown. Of course, they're going to review those plays. That's the way they do it here in the NFL. But by no means necessary was there any surprise whether or not Kareem Hunt was in. Obviously, 2 touchdowns on the day for Kareem Hunt, a guy who came into the day questionable whether or not he was even going to be able to play. So again, the Browns' production for the running back room, 150 yards, 3 touchdowns total. Again, Pierre Strong starting to get the run I think that Pierre Strong deserves. Pierre Strong is one of the few running backs that I see since Nick Chubb has been gone that can pick up cutback. And a lot of what Kevin Stefanski does, a lot of what Bill Callahan does as far as designing the run game is about picking up the cutback lanes. That was something that Nick Chubb was so good at and basically took so much advantage of with this team. Pierre Strong was one of the few guys I actually saw do that today. Basically, what you're looking for is for the guy pursuing, and basically you're trying to find your angle to get to where he just left, the place that he vacated. Pierre Strong had a couple of those runs today, so very impressive on his part. David Njoku, overall, a nice day today. And, probably, if things worked out, probably would have been able to get that last touchdown if it wasn't, for PJ Walker firing the ball, realizing it was, basically tossing the ball about 7 feet, threw the ball way too hard, of course. But David Njoku had a nice day as well for the Cleveland Browns today. Elijah Moore, you're starting to see them go away from the dipsy doodle, basically, the sexy stuff that it's just not working. Elijah Moore has to be more established as a wide receiver. Elijah has done that to this point. Great job by him today. His 30-yard reception, which was a crucial play, basically changed all the momentum and gave the Browns all the momentum back and was able to get them obviously moving down the field. Granted, the penalties helped as well, but the Browns were able to do what they had to do to get out of a difficult spot, because as much as last week's win over the San Francisco 49ers brought a hallelujah moment, today losing to the Indianapolis Colts would have brought it all the way back down and probably would have brought it back down even worse. So the Browns obviously in a really difficult position today, but they got what they needed. They got the victory. This team is now 4-2, and obviously Seattle Seahawks next on the slate for the Cleveland Browns. We're going to continue here. We're going to talk about the defense because there was a lot of good that came from the defense today. There also was a lot of bad as well. Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns, continues. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So let's see who Vinny has picked out for us on this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. Jets wide receiver Garrett Wilson will come off a bye and build on his momentum with an improved Zach Wilson to have a big game against the Giants in Week 8. Start spreading the news in this New York battle. The Giants secondary cannot cover him well and has already given up big games to Deebo Samuel, Tyreek Hill, and Stephon Diggs. Garrett Wilson is a great talent, and the Jets are now back to using him as dominant number one. Look for him to keep coming through with his best all-around game yet in fantasy in 2023. Vinny Iyer from Locked On Fantasy Football is going to help you win your fantasy football championship, and eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof rack, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customer, eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Myles Garrett. We'll start with that because there comes many a time in a season where there needs to be, a Myles Garrett appreciation. And today was one of them. Obviously, 2 sacks, both led to forced fumbles, many tackles. I think it was 10 overall, 7 solo tackles on the day for Myles Garrett. The 1 forced fumble in the end zone, Tony Fields, Johnny on the spot. Tony Fields' second touchdown in 2 seasons as a defensive player. So Tony Fields, who obviously had the opportunity to get some reps today with Sione Takitaki missing the game. Tony Fields gets himself a feel-good moment. The blocked field goal. I haven't seen anybody do that since Cam Chancellor. And with Cam Chancellor, you're talking about a guy who was just a defensive back, a guy who was not 6'5", 285 pounds. I mean, and the other thing is Cam Chancellor used to basically time it. So, he would walk up from 7 to 8 yards off the line of scrimmage, try to hit as soon as the ball was snapped, and basically hurdle everybody. Myles, remember all those videos we used to see of Myles Garrett and all the box jumps he used to do as far as his workouts? Well, you kind of really saw it transition today in the NFL play, right? What he did, it was just bonkers, bananas. You're not supposed to see this type of stuff in the NFL. I mean, and granted, these guys are all athletic freaks, but every now and then you still get wowed. That was an absolute wow moment from Myles Garrett. And he just continues to, find new ways to just show you everything that he is, the total package that he can be, getting closer and closer. I mean, we're talking about almost getting closer and closer to 100 career sacks. This is the type of guy that Myles Garrett is, the type of talent that Myles Garrett is. But now playing with a defense around him, that is probably equal in talent. Grant Delpit, we can just continue to do this. Grant Delpit just gets better and better and better. And if the Browns have any interest in keeping Grant Delpit here long term, you better get those negotiations going now, because it almost seems that each week the price tag for a player like Grant Delpit just keeps going up. Him again as well, 7 solo tackles. I think it was 10 tackles all over the field today. Whether it was blitzing, whether it was coverage, whether it was run defense, we say these same things about Grant Delpit week in, week out, and he just continues to amaze and wow on a weekly basis. Number 22, solid player, and the Browns got to find a way and make their decision quickly, or whether or not Grant Delpit is going to be a player they're going to keep in the fold here long term. Jordan Elliott was some inspired effort. Jordan Elliott blowing things up in the backfield a couple of times here today. Run play that he stuffs, it obviously turned into a negative. The guy did get away from him, but guys were there to clean it up for him. Big sack today from Jordan Elliott. This has been a guy that has been around here for years now. Now year 4 for Jordan Elliott, and we've heard from all these years is here's a player that's coming around, and we hear all these positives and superlatives throughout the spring, throughout the summer, and then we get to fall and we get to games and we get to tape, and everybody's like, well, where is this Jordan Elliott you guys are all talking about? Well, we got to see that Jordan Elliott today, and obviously a couple of big plays for him. Guy, look, I mean, it's one thing to put in all the work. It's one thing to do everything that's asked of you, but you still got to produce. And I think that's the thing for Browns fans, and everybody kind of analyzes the Browns. Well, what is the question, with Jordan Elliott? Where is all this? But Jordan Elliott, obviously with a monster effort today, big part being involved. Maurice Hurst, another tackle for loss today, continues to be the best feel-good story of the Cleveland Browns defense to this point here in 2023. Week in, week out, Mo Hurst just seems to find a way to keep himself involved. But we went with the positives first. Now we'll kind of go with the negatives. This team didn't cover well today. The first touchdown early in the game. This happened twice. It happened on the touchdown to Josh Downs. It happened later in the game on the long completion to Alec Pierce. Whether or not you feel that somebody on the defense, one of your teammates, was offsides, that doesn't mean you shut it down. You've got to play to the whistle. The Josh Downs first touchdown, completely. I mean, almost all 11 guys just assumed the play was going to be blow dead. You can't do it. You just absolutely cannot do it. It needs to be coached out of you. Jim Schwartz needs to have a serious discussion with his guys. Alec Pierce, it wasn't as bad. Martin Emerson was in coverage. Granted, the ball was underthrown, which led to that. But there were still guys who did not give all-out effort on that play. You cannot assume You just can't. And, this is something they did a couple of times today here. You absolutely have to play to the whistle. And look, if it ends up to the point where maybe somebody gets bumped, somebody draws a 15-yard penalty, that's a lot better than basically giving up a 59-yard touchdown at Josh Downs like they did today. These things cannot happen. These things have to be corrected. The mental focus has to be there. The Colts ran pretty well today. And look, that was their commitment. That with Gardner Minshew, obviously there was a commitment. Gardner Minshew could be a good quarterback in the NFL. He can be a dreadful quarterback in the NFL. It all depends on Gardner Minshew. Last week he was dreadful against the Jacksonville Jaguars. This week he played pretty well, played pretty tough, played pretty competitive. This was a guy that, years ago when he first came out, was in the draft process. We said, mate, here's a guy that maybe, could be a long-term backup to Baker Mayfield with the Cleveland Browns. Obviously bounced around the league since then, but Gardner Minshew, had a really, really solid day today. It actually impressed me with what he was able to do with his legs. I had no idea that, basically he could be a ball carrier and be as effective as he was. And there was a little wiggle, obviously, on the beating Juan Thornhill for the second touchdown. There was the north-south ability on the first touchdown that got him into the end zone. Browns defense, look, you're not going to play like you did against the San Francisco 49ers every week. Because then also the problem is a team like the Colts looks at tape like that and says, all right, well, this is what they did. We got to do something different, and we got to try something different. And obviously the Colts committed to the run a lot more. They committed to getting the quarterback involved in the run more than the San Francisco 49ers did. Obviously, that is not one of the strengths of Brock Purdy. They were able to get a good effort today out of Gardner Minshew as far as helping and assisting as being a ball carrier. There's going to be tells, and people are going to come for this Browns defense week in, week out. It's one thing where teams label you, and I think the Browns ended up giving almost 450 total yards, which is a horrendous number. But again, 39-38, you walk out with the win. You back Gardner Minshew up late in the game. Obviously, Zadarius Smith gets on top of him. The ball gets loose. Ogbenaya Okoronkwo jumps on it, which was good for Ogbo because earlier in the game, there was a little scare, ended up in the tent, was right back on the field really quickly after that. Denzel Ward, the official word is not a concussion, but did not return to the game. But, again, anything with Denzel, especially as well as Denzel Ward has been playing this year, you really, you need him because, the key of what these cornerbacks can do as far as their man coverage just allows and gives Jim Schwartz the luxury to just do so many other things with his defensive players. Whether it's blitz, whether it's attack the quarterback, whether it is being able to send extra guys, on run blitzes, hitting the A gap, making guys bounce the ball out because you're such a fast defense that the ball carriers are bouncing the ball out. You have the athleticism to get there. Anthony Walker, I thought, had a really, really good game today. JOK was kind of quiet, but that's okay. JOK has been really, really solid to this point this year. But this was a big one for the Browns. And look, this defense changed the whole momentum of this game. Obviously Deshaun was out. PJ came in. PJ was cold. PJ was ineffective. And Myles Garrett and the defense was able to go out there and string together a couple of big drives in a row that changed the entire momentum of the game. And then we're able to kind of hold it down and lock it down tight late, to give this team an opportunity to get the victory that they did today. Myles Garrett, phenomenal effort. Maybe he'll get a defensive player of the week this week because, they just seem to keep robbing this guy. Maybe it's an unfair advantage that maybe they just feel that he's, basically a man amongst boys and maybe doesn't deserve these accolades. But Myles Garrett was an absolute true game changer today, and with a never say die attitude, which led to this team being victorious. It took 59 minutes and 45 seconds. But the Cleveland Browns did close it out today. We're going to get to segment 3 here. Victory Monday, Locked On Browns. Appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. And make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and joining the everyday crowd. Locked On Browns is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. This app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Jeff Lloyd, and we are closing out Victory Monday here on Locked On Browns. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Of course, join the everyday crowd. Cleveland Browns now 4-2, 39-38 victory in Indianapolis. This game was up and down all day. Obviously, the Browns with the early excitement, early Jerome Ford. Then the Colts with the encroachment that led to the 59-yard touchdown to Josh Downs. And nobody on the Browns defense really reacted. I think we all felt the same thing when Michael Pittman caught that slant over the middle and nobody caught him. We all thought, oh no. And we thought maybe this one was going to get away from the Browns. And then he gets the ball with it was about a minute and change to go. Browns at the time had only the one timeout left, ended up burning the timeout early in the drive. PJ Walker, and you heard, when Adam Archuleta, basically every drive that came out, PJ Walker's going to have to make a throw or two. He's going to have to make a throw or two. And that 30-yard pass to Elijah Moore down the sidelines. Elijah Moore, again, effective today. You're starting to see more and more what so many of us keep talking about, where he is a really good wide receiver. He is not one of these athletes that he can play everywhere. He is truly a good wide receiver. He needs to be expanded in that role, featured in that role, and especially in a game like today where Amari Cooper is bottled up. You just can't find anything going with Amari Cooper today. But the Browns were able to get it all going, get Njoku involved, obviously get Donovan Peoples-Jones on in some timely patterns late in the game, which ultimately led to the Browns punching it in with 15 seconds to go. 4th and 1, Kareem Hunt with his second touchdown of the game. And again, through social media, I don't get it, guys. Coach Stefanski is out here, loses his first-string quarterback. Keep in mind, he just beat the San Francisco 49ers last week with his third-string quarterback. Loses his first-string quarterback who just comes back from injury early in the game. You got Kareem Hunt in the Wildcat. There are so many play calls that are becoming dynamic and things that you haven't seen before from Coach Stefanski. So everybody wants to get on Coach. You're basically lying to yourself. You're basically showing yourself as being a liar, because this guy is pulling some rabbits out of the hat here in unfavorable circumstances. All of this was supposed to be about Deshaun Watson this year. Well, the fact of the matter is the Cleveland Browns have played 6 games. Deshaun Watson has played about 3 games and a couple of drives. But yet this team sits here 4-2. With a defensive wizard in Jim Schwartz, who was just doing phenomenal things, even though the Colts had his number a little bit today. Just deploying athletes, just accentuating the best parts of these players and putting them in the best position to succeed and dominate on the field. Myles Garrett, there's never enough superlatives, but Myles Garrett, the way that Jim Schwartz is employing him, letting him do whatever he wants, line up wherever he feels comfortable, and just wreaking havoc. That is what I'm loving to see right now. The offensive line, I think, and we talked about it, the offensive line has not been great to this point. I think they're trending upward, which is a really good thing, because the Browns are going to need the offense to get better. They're going to need the running game to get better. They're going to need the offense to just get tighter all around. And the fact that there is room to grow for this offense, there is room for improvement with this offensive line, and certainly with a bunch of things on this offense, certainly gives you some excitement. Deshaun Watson, word is post-game that, Kevin Stefanski thinks he will be fine to go for Seattle. Deshaun, just vague in general with his comments, we'll see. I'm not sure. Certainly nothing that anybody wants to hear. But keep in mind, we did hear all week long before the Ravens game, Deshaun Watson saying how he's going to be ready to go, how he's going to be ready to go, how he's going to be ready to go. Wasn't able to go, and then essentially was vilified by everybody for not being able to go. So maybe it's better for Deshaun to just keep it short, keep it simple. Of course, this stuff will all be revisited Monday, Tuesday, and of course, we'll find out more on Wednesday when we start to get the Browns back on the practice field. But this was big, and I don't have much of a voice left. This was a really tough one today. It was either yelling at what they were not doing, or it was celebrating what they were doing. But it was really, overall, the attitude of this team and not willing to give up. And now my 7th season covering here, the Cleveland Browns, there are so many times where we saw a game like today, where basically this team just felt the brakes were against them. They were up against it and basically just pitched a tent and called it a day. It was not that way today. The mentality of this roster is not that way. These guys will go 60 minutes. They went 60 minutes last week to take out the San Francisco 49ers. They went 60 minutes this week to take out the Indianapolis Colts. Not good for any of us, medically speaking, probably. Certainly needs some Tums, some Rolaids. Obviously everybody, doing the old pounding on the chest here as, the Browns just continue to, give us the cardiac moments But it was huge. And, it's a confidence thing. And look, this team, obviously, to this point, had only had 2 road games, lost the first one to Pittsburgh. You cannot lose a game to the Indianapolis Colts. You cannot lose a game to a team that is running with their number 2 quarterback. You need to get these things right. And the Browns did just that today. Wasn't pretty. Again, you're not going to hang it on the Louvre, but, hey, every dog has its day, and the Cleveland Browns certainly had their day today. Browns again victorious 39-38 in Indianapolis over the Colts. Strong performance overall by everyone. Certainly, it was all, like even I said about the defense, it was all or nothing, but the offense was kind of that as well. The running game, there were big plays or there were negative plays. I think that Jerome Ford with the 69-yard run still ended up with under 80 yards rushing. So just basically a microcosm of the way the entire day went for the Cleveland Browns. But your Cleveland Browns are now 4-2. Currently sitting at second place. We'll see what happens with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, this team's playing hard. This team is playing together. This team really, really needs to figure out what's going on at the quarterback position. Is Deshaun Watson healthy? Is Deshaun Watson ready to lead this team? Because that is what this team needs. And we're going to talk about that more, certainly, during the week. But this is Victory Monday, and we're going to celebrate. Cleveland Browns winners, 39-38. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on ELOB. Let's go, Browns.